Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the show. It's me, the host of the show, the movie review show. I don't know what it's called. I don't care anymore. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is the theme of the day. The juice is loose. And we're going to talk about it, you and me, and BJ. 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 That's short for Beetlejuice. So, I guess I'll start with some context. Context is important after all, right? I guess. I fucking love Beetlejuice. I'm a big fan. So we're just gonna start with that. We're gonna preface this whole thing with I'm a big fan of the original movie. So there's some bias here. There's a bit of a history. When I was a kid, I was really into Tim Burton for some reason. And weird, I didn't watch all of his movies. I just was really into the ones that I did watch. Like Nightmare Before Christmas and Edward Scissorhands specifically. Those were my big two. And then Beetlejuice and Corpse Bride. Those are 3 and 4, tertiary, but I was fucking hyped. I'm into those movies. I love Beetlejuice. Though it had been a while since I'd last revisited it. So yesterday, just before I went to go see the new one, I popped on the original again. The juice is loose. And I watched it. Excuse me. It was, and yeah, it holds up. It's still a really fun movie. I think what I really liked about it, though, is, the relationship between, the two main characters. I like them a lot. I think that's, a really strong connection. You feel it right away. Oh, these two have been in love for a long time, and it's really nice. And then of course, obviously Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is it's electric. It's insane. I realized as I was watching it again I don't know, I doubt there's very many of you watching this that just don't know me in real life, but if you are out there, hello. I thank you. I appreciate it. So you may not, your mileage may vary on whether or not you even get what I'm talking about, but there's this character that I created called Monkey Man, and I have all these shorts about him and whatever, and I play him, and I was watching Beetlejuice, and the whole time I just kept thinking oh my god, he's just Monkey Man. I stole. Blatantly, I ripped off this guy. I forgot. I didn't even read because it's been so long since I'd watched it. So I watched it again. I was oh yeah, no, this is exactly it. It's subconsciously I was channeling this exact guy when I was making those movies. So that's fun. So that was a pleasant little fun personal connection for me. I like that a lot. I really like the character of Beetlejuice. I think he's very fucking funny. Just completely completely insane, and just every 2 seconds he's just throwing some other random bullshit at you. I find it very entertaining. Obviously I think most people do. And so going into this new one, I really just had a couple expectations. I wanted to see more Beetlejuice, him specifically, and I wanted it to not be terrible. And I'm not gonna completely give the game away. I'm gonna have more to talk about. But to start, we got more Beetlejuice, and I don't think it's completely terrible. So that's a thumbs up right there. That's a recommendation. You want to know if I recommend it before I start getting into spoilers or whatever? I do. I think you should watch this movie if you like the original Beetlejuice. If you don't particularly care about that first movie, if it's just completely off your radar, you don't give a fuck, I don't think you should bother. To be honest, I'm gonna be real. It's it's recommend with an asterisk. If you are really hyped, go watch it because you'll have a good time. If you're indifferent, I don't really know if this would be the thing that would win you over. If you didn't like the first one, I don't think you're gonna like this one. It is different, but I don't think it's different enough that it would really sway you. So yeah, when the hype train for this movie was starting, I when it first got announced, I mean, I was really not about it. I was oh fuck, this is gonna suck. I had no interest. I was this is gonna be terrible. Oh my god, man, the burps are crazy today. Of course, right when I film a fucking review. I guess I shouldn't be drinking Mountain Dew while I'm recording. Anyway, so I had no faith. There hasn't been any like good legacy sequels. They're always shit. Unless Puss in Boots 2 counts. Does that count? It's been like 10 years. I think it almost kind of counts. And yeah, that one's good, but like, whatever. Um so I pretty much had no faith in this. And then the trailers started coming out, and then instantly I was like, okay, wait, hang on. Okay, wait, hang on. Wait, I like Beetlejuice. Okay, fine, I'll go. I'll watch it. Because they were good. Very fun trailers, very like lively and energetic. I'm like, okay, it seems like it has the spirit of the original. And then all these interviews were coming out with like Tim Burton talking about like, I won't come back unless they let me do practical effects, and they let me do it. And I'm like, wow, that's like kind of cool. I think that's cool. I think it's neat that he was willing to go to bat for that kind of thing. Because you watch all of these other legacy sequels that come out nowadays, and they have this like, they just have this look to them. Is that just me? Like every time they do a sequel like 20 years later, they all look glossy and ugly and bad, and it's like it doesn't feel like it takes place in the same world as the original. It feels like an SNL sketch version of the original. It's like it's not something's off about it, something's wrong. This movie feels like it takes place in the same world as the original. Like I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, no, you got it, you nailed it. The practical effects are like spot on, almost the same kind of shit, but updated for modern day to look a little bit nicer. And yeah, they look fucking great. I think all the effects in this movie look absolutely incredible. And that to me is one of the big standouts of this whole thing. Is just looking at it. I mean, like, God, you could put the whole movie on mute and just like watch it and like it's fucking cool. I mean, wow, some of these effects are insane. Again, I'm gonna I think from this point on expect spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, maybe turn it off now, come back later. But I'm gonna get into some specific aspects that I really like. There's this scene with this baby, this like weird Beetlejuice baby, and it was so gross and funny to me. Like it just like, and it goes on for a little too long. And they do it twice. But I was like, fuck it, this is cool. I don't know, it looks cool. There's this like animatronic or puppet Beetlejuice baby like crawling around and like blah, like throwing up and shit. And there's a lot of cool stuff like that. And in the trailer, they have him like spill his guts, like, and then he rips his guts out and they all fall on the floor. You're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Just a lot of really cool stuff like that in this movie. Very, 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 very fun practical effects. But that story, let's unpack a little bit of that. So this is a movie that doesn't really have like a straightforward narrative. There's so much shit going on and so many characters and so much bullshit. I will say for the first half of this movie, I was really worried. I was like, "Oh God, I don't think I'm gonna like this. I think I'm starting to hate it almost." Like it was a really fine balancing act, and the only thing that was kind of carrying me through was the goodwill of having liked the original movie. So like keep that in mind. Again, like I said before, if you haven't liked the original movie or haven't seen it or whatever, that goodwill will not carry you through that first half. It's a very boring first half. I mean, wow. Nothing particularly happens. It's just a lot of characters talking to each other without much development. And again, like, I know that's people are gonna make fun of me. Wow, Luke can't watch movies that have people talking in it. Okay, I like conversation heavy movies. I like dialogue heavy movies. That's the thing I like in movies is characters talking to each other and learning to get to know each other better or whatever. This movie doesn't really have that. It has conversations, but the conversations don't really lead to anything relevant. It's like they'll talk, and then it's all stuff that could have been established way faster. It's a lot of, in this movie, like tell, don't show, like they really like, and they drag these conversations out. It's things like, there's this part where like, there's this like annoying boyfriend character that I really didn't like. And he's like Lydia's boyfriend right now, / manager. And like he's proposing to her at this funeral. It's stupid, whatever. It's a very dumb plot point. That whole plot point is very, very forced. And it's just this really long, extended scene. And I just remember thinking, like, you could have cut out so much of this. And there's a lot of weird pacing choices like that. Like, there's this part where, like, and this is such a minor complaint. I'm not going to pretend like this is like a movie ruining scene, but it bugged me. There's this scene where Lydia is like running home after, and she's trying to like get up to the attic, right? And so she's running home, and like her husband, or sorry, the boyfriend manager character is like giving out candy for trick or treaters, and she like runs past him to get into the house, and instead of like cutting to her like going up the stairs, like it feels like that's the natural progression of like the pacing is like, okay, like we have to see what's going on up there. They just have the boyfriend character like handing out candy for like a couple minutes, and then they have him like say a line, and it's like it's almost a joke, but like not really. He's like handing out candy, and it's like, here's your health squares and apple bites, you know, like it's like, oh, it's healthy candy, haha, which is such an overdone Halloween joke, by the way, like wow. But anyway, I'm not saying you couldn't have had that in there, but it just felt like a weird like pacing thing. Like I don't really get why you had to have that in there. It's an extra joke, but it wasn't really like that funny, and it completely killed the pacing of the scene for a second. I was like, okay, like how long do I have to see this for? Nothing plot relevant happened. It's just nothing. And again, not saying every single thing that happens in the movie has to be plot relevant. I mean, fuck, half of the time Beetlejuice is just on screen like fucking throwing goo everywhere. And that's not relevant to the plot, right? And it's still fun, and it's still entertaining to watch, right? That's all I'm asking for. I just think that pacing wise, this movie has a bit of an issue. There's a lot of extended conversations that don't really go anywhere, that feel like they could have been shortened by like quite a bit, and you would lose almost nothing because they're not particularly funny and they don't really move the story forward that much. I mean, you could really shorten a lot of these scenes and the movie would be basically the same. Speaking of which, you could cut out a few of these subplots. And again, it's not that they're not very fun and entertaining. There's this bit with Beetlejuice's ex-wife. Great fucking design. Amazing effects on this character. I really like the scene where she's like putting herself together with like these staples. It's like, oh, that's so fucking, that was really cool. I thought it was really cool. I really liked the way it looked. And she has this gimmick where she like sucks people's souls. Like she'll like slurp through their mouth, their soul, and then like they like get crumpled up like a can, and they like fall to the ground, and you're like, oh, that's like, it's a very neat effect. It looks really cool, and they use it a couple times throughout the movie, and honestly, it never got old for me. It looks really awesome. But the thing about this character is that she really doesn't ultimately do much. It's just an extra source of tension, like, and her whole subplot kind of ends, like, ultimately, it doesn't really take up that much screen time, but it takes up more than you'd think for something that is just so ultimately unnecessary for the whole thing, you know? Like, and it leads to some fun moments, like, again, the soul-sucking bit, and there's, like, this flashback scene where you see Beetlejuice when he's alive, and like, he's getting married to her. It's a very fun scene. It's all told in, like, Spanish with subtitles. Again, it's funny. It's very funny, but ultimately, by the end of the story, you're sort of like, why was she even there? Like, it didn't really, like, tie in that much. And speaking of which, that whole thing ties into Willem Dafoe's character, who plays this cop who was, like, an actor who died and became a cop in the afterlife. Again, hilarious character. He's very funny, very animated on screen. I fucking love Willem Dafoe. I have no issue with any movie that's going to shoehorn Willem Dafoe. If you're going to shoehorn in any actor that kind of doesn't really need to be there, it's Willem Dafoe, because he's going to fucking crush it every time. And guess what? He does. But again, at the end of the movie, I'm sort of asking myself, like, him and the ex-wife, like, it's a whole extra subplot, like, through line throughout the movie that, again, is one of the more entertaining bits. But at the same time, I'm wondering, but, like, why, though? Like, it doesn't, the more main plot, I guess, with, like, Lydia and her daughter and Beetlejuice himself, even, it almost feels like nothing. Like, the ex-wife shows up at the wedding, and her and Beetlejuice don't even really, like, interact when she shows up. He just goes, like, what the fuck? And then, like, that's it. I don't know. And then they get rid of her so easily, they have the sandworms just come back and they fucking eat her. I'm like, bro, what? Like, I don't know. Didn't we do that already? That's how they beat Beetlejuice in the first movie, is they use the sandworm. I don't know. It just feels like I was expecting, like, the sandworm to, like, come and eat her, and then, like, she would be so strong that she would, like, get out of it or something. Like, that kind of would have been, like, right? Like, that feels like the necessary, like where it almost feels like it was gonna go. But then they were like, nah, you know what, sandworm's good enough. And, like, I guess it is. The sandworm looks really fucking cool. Like, every time it shows up, you're like, oh, there it is, you know? Like, okay, fair. but also it felt pretty easy in the end to get rid of her. And not to say Beetlejuice in the first movie wasn't pretty easy. It was literally the same thing. But that's sort of what bugs me, is they just sort of like did the same scene again. Like, oh, here comes the sandworm. Oh, got her. Okay. What, if they do a third one, are they just going to do it again? Anyway. Yeah, speaking of antagonist characters, I guess, again, I'm going to go back to this manager boyfriend character for Lydia, who I think is just so unnecessary, like, to this whole thing. Like, I'm well, okay. He has a relevance in the story in the weird, convoluted kind of narrative that they've set up here. But, like, at the end of the day, I'm sort of like, man, I really wish he got, like, 50% less screen time. He takes up a lot of the movie, and again, for almost no reason. Like, he's dispatched of very quickly, and it seems like they're setting up some kind of bigger twist with him. Like, honestly, this is gonna sound kind of stupid if you've seen the movie, but I was almost kind of thinking he was gonna be like Beetlejuice in disguise or something, and it kind of makes more sense because he's trying to marry Lydia for some reason, and he's really in a rush to do it. But in the end, it's just that, like, he wants money, and, like, yeah, I mean, we all figured that out. I figured that out so fucking fast. It's like, so, like, you figured out so quickly. Which kind of leaves, like, Winona Ryder, Lydia, in just, like, this state where, like, the whole movie you're sort of like, man, it doesn't feel like she really does that much, and she's kind of, like, made to almost feel kind of like, I don't want to say stupid, but, like, she has no agency. And that can maybe be attributed to the fact that she's hopped up on these pills the whole movie. I don't know really what the fuck they were, like, trying to say with that whole thing. I mean, it's Beetlejuice. I don't necessarily think they're trying to make, like, some kind of commentary, but it was an interesting choice to just have her, like, hopped up on pills, like, literally just, like, taking fucking, like, some kind of pills. They don't really say what they do. I guess they, like, keep the ghosts out of her head. That was, I guess, the implication. But yeah, very weird. And yeah, with the boyfriend manager character, yeah, he gets dispatched same way. He gets eaten by the sandworm, him and the fucking ex-wife, both of them taken out in one thing. There's another villain character that I want to talk about, and it's this Jenna Ortega, Astrid, I think her name was in the movie. She, like, meets this boy, and she starts talking to him, and instantly I just remember thinking, like, oh my god, this is so stupid. Like, he's such an obnoxious character. Like, he's reading, like, some, like, fucking pretentious garbage, and then she goes, like, oh, Dostoevsky? And then he's like, you're quoting Dostoevsky? I'm in love. Name? Senorita Awesome. Like, it's one of those. You know that fucking Senorita Awesome? That was what it reminded me of. Every scene with those two together was so bad. And I was thinking, like, wow, like, this is really shit. And then I remember getting, like, kind of a weird suspicion. I was like, there has to be a twist with this character somewhere, right? Like, it can't just be played straight, and thank fucking God it wasn't just played straight. There is a twist. They were self-aware, but at the same time, two things can be true. You can have a twist that is ultimately, like makes sense for what's going on, right? But you can also have that whole first half now be completely just like, why the fuck did you even do that? You know, like, I wish there was a way they could have had their romance be more believable and have, like, maybe they picked a better fucking kid actor or something. That kid sucked. And they changed the writing a little bit. Like, it was really cringe. Like, it was really bad whenever those two were talking to each other. It was awful. But thank God they had self-awareness. He was actually evil. He was trying to trick her, and, like, he wants to, like, steal her soul or whatever to become alive again because he's a serial killer. And it was a whole thing. And it made sense in the movie, but ultimately, now I'm just left wondering, like, man, I really wish they had just made that first half stronger, like, with those two characters, and had an actual, like, connection with them, so that when there was the twist, it was less a sense of, like, oh, thank God the movie's not that stupid, as opposed to, like, oh my God, like, that's a crazy twist. I really was, like, getting into their relationship. Like, wow, they got me too. And, you know, if it was like a kid's movie or something, you could maybe be like, you know, like, whatever, it's, you know, you can excuse it a little bit more. But Beetlejuice isn't a kid's movie. Michael Keaton says fuck. Michael Keaton's on screen yelling about fucking dead babies and kicking babies across the room and going like, fuck this. You know, so I don't know. I can't really defend that. I think that it should have just, like, been, like, played more straight instead of just terrible. So I hate that character. There's a lot of characters I just hate in this movie. And I have to say, the first movie doesn't really have that. There's no character that I just like hate. I mean, other than like the ones you're kind of supposed to hate and for like, plot reasons. This is like, I just hate the fucking, the actor's annoying and the writing is bad for the character. So I don't like them and I want them to get off screen so we can get back to Beetlejuice. And again, let's get back, I guess we'll get back to Beetlejuice now. It feels like I haven't talked about him in a while. He's great. He's so amazing. He comes back and he doesn't miss a beat. He's fucking funny. Every time he's on screen, I'm laughing consistently. It's entertaining. It's energetic. The effects are amazing. Everything he does in this whole thing is like top-notch shit, like A+ material. This feels like the reason they made the movie. Like everything that takes place in the afterlife is fucking amazing. Like it's all consistently great. It's all fun. It looks cool and it's entertaining the whole time, the whole way through. Everything that takes place in the real world is very hit or miss, and very few times does it land anything above like a B. So that's sort of my issue with the movie. Thankfully, it's a movie that ends strong as opposed to a movie that starts strong. You know what I mean? I can usually give a little bit more leeway if a movie starts kind of slow, but it builds to something really great and really cool. And thankfully, I will say that Beetlejuice 2 sticks it in the end. It does stick the landing. Takes a little bit to get there, and I think your mileage is going to vary, like, fully depending on how much you like that first movie, / like, how much goodwill you have going into it. Because if you're just, like, instantly, like, I don't care about this, like, you're not going to find much to get into, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but since I really like that first movie, this is a solid entry. It's a nice time. It was fun to revisit this world and these characters. I liked it a lot. Did I love it? I can't go that far, but I really, really liked it. Like, this is like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me. Honestly, leaning 8, because the stuff that's good is so fucking good. But man, there's some stuff in this movie that's just like real B-, like just like, I guess, like you're just kind of skirting by on my goodwill, and like that's about it. And it was worrying to me that there were genuinely parts where I like wanted to check my watch, like, hey, like, can they move this fucking shit along? Like, very slow in that first bit, and not in a good way. I'm kind of now I feel like I'm repeating points, so I'm probably just gonna wrap this up now. Watch it though, fully recommend it. Again, if you like the first one and you have interest in seeing it, I think you should. So that's Beetlejuice. If you have anything you want to say about it, comment. Let me know about it. I love the comments. I love comments, Charlie. I love comments. That was really cringe. Sorry. Yeah, just like comment, like, subscribe, the like, whatever. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you on the next one. I don't know what the next review will be. We'll see. Honestly, there's not really a lot of good movies coming out this year in my head. I mean, they'll show up. Like the Oscar movies always do. There's always like some random sleeper hits out of nowhere. 2 movies I'm excited for this year. Megalopolis. I want to see the shit out of that. I want to know how the fuck they're going to deal with that whole weird bit with the actor, the live actor. That shit's fucking... If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's fucking crazy. Just Megalopolis live actor and just see, because your mind's going to be blown. And this, and Joker 2. I know, but it looks good. I don't care. I'll die on that hill that it looks good. We'll see, I guess, but like, I think it looks good. Yeah, those are like the only 2 though, really, that I have any interest in seeing, at least as of now. Again, something will pop up, I'm sure. Yeah, we're just waiting for Shrek 5 now. 2 more years, guys. All right, Beetlejuice, the juice is loose.